Iran has reportedly made a new offer to the United States. Here it is. Iran will allow a reopening of the Strait of Hormuz if President Trump puts nuclear negotiations on hold. Well, that would be a huge bonus for them. That may be a non-starter, as President Trump's top priority is eliminating any possibility of a nuclear-armed Iran. He scrapped a second round of peace talks in Pakistan over the weekend and said this.
We have all the cards. If they want to talk, they can come to us or they can call us. You know, there is a telephone. If they want, they can call us. But again, they know what has to be in the agreement. Very simple. They cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Central Command says the U.S. has now redirected 38 ships headed to or from Iranian ports since the U.S. blockade of Iran began nearly 3 weeks ago. Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin is in Washington, D.C. Jennifer.
Harris, the president will meet at the White House today with his national security team to discuss how to end the stalemate in the Strait of Hormuz and pressure the Iranians. With a third aircraft carrier in the Middle East and ongoing flights of refueling tankers and cargo planes creating an air bridge to the Middle East, Iran sent a message to Washington that it is willing to lift its blockade on the Strait of Hormuz in exchange for the U.S. doing the same. But the offer, as you mentioned, does not address its nuclear program. In the Arabian Sea this weekend, the USS Pinckney intercepted the MV Sevan, one of 19 sanctioned Shadow Fleet tankers moving Iranian oil. The merchant vessel is currently complying with U.S. military direction to turn back to Iran under escort, CENTCOM said in a statement. 38 vessels to or from Iranian ports have been redirected since the blockade of Iranian ports began.
We have twice the amount of power in the region today than what we had when we started the war. The Israelis, who we don't talk about enough, are part of this combined force. They are flush now with all of their magazine depth brought back up to maximum levels after they have been depleted, you know, after 4 or 5 weeks of war. So what we have in the region and the blow that we can deliver is absolutely significant.
Iran's new proposal was presented by Pakistani officials who are trying to mediate, but the president has said he wants to end Iran's atomic program as part of an overall deal. Shortly after President Trump announced this weekend that he was not sending his negotiators all the way to Islamabad, the Iranians, he said, sent a better proposal, but it still falls short of President Trump's demands. Harris.
Jennifer, thank you very much for getting us started on this part of our coverage. In focus now, Lieutenant Colonel Darin Gaub, a retired Black Hawk helicopter pilot and battalion commander. Good to have you in focus. Let's start, if we can, with the idea that Iran thinks that it can water down this deal and negotiate from their end. Are they delusional, or could that happen?
Right now, Harris, I would say that they're probably more delusional than anything else. I mean, let's put it simply. There are two things that need to be on the table more than anything else, and that is Iran's nuclear program and the access to the Strait. Those are the two things they want to take off and say they don't really want to talk about during this peace negotiations, if they were to happen. In that case, all they're really saying is they're not serious and there's no reason for us to be there because we're not going to take those off the table, and we must insist they remain there.
What kind of a threat are they now, considering the fact that, yes, they can hit their neighbors and they can, you know, trigger cells if they happen to be in Western countries or even the United States? What threat are they now? And we know they feel that economic pressure.
Yes, they certainly do feel the economic pressure, especially since there's so many tankers that have turned around, frankly, and come to the United States to get to buy their energy supplies, and that's a significant change too as a result of all this. But the threat remains, but they are clearly not what they used to be militarily. They can still threaten their neighbors a little bit, but nowhere near as much as we thought. Or I should say, at the beginning, that's 95% reduction in their ability to launch drones and missiles, nuclear capacity largely destroyed, even though they'll try to rebuild it. And they're in the process of trying to dig systems out of the sand to be able to reuse them. So I wouldn't mark them off yet and say that they're not a threat. They are, but they're not near as significant as they used to be.
All right, let's get into the money. The U.S. blockade on Iranian ports is having a significant impact on Iran's economy. The U.S. Navy says it's sent more than $1 billion worth of crude oil back to Iran. meaning they can't put that on open market because they can't move those ships to where they need to go so they can sell it and deliver it. President Trump said yesterday on other ways the conflict is hurting Iran. This, watch.
Their factories, their missile-making factories, have been damaged about 75%, which isn't 100%, so there's danger there. And their drone-making ability has been damaged about 80%, 82%. They're in bad shape. They have no ships because of the blockade. What happens is that line explodes from within, both mechanically and in the earth. Something happens where it just explodes. And they say they only have about 3 days left before that happens.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense with the oil coming out of the ground. If you don't continue to pump it, what happens to all of that? And they don't have a place to put it because they can't move the oil and empty out those ships and so on and so forth. So talk to me about how this wraps up militarily.
Well, militarily, ultimately, if you keep that embargo in place and keep the naval blockade in place, then you have exactly what President Trump is talking about, and that's the shutting down of the Iranian economy, which is based on oil, and that economy feeds an industrial-scale terror and criminal enterprise. All of that means, best case, that you can end this thing without having to have any more shots fired, because Iran basically is no longer able to conduct commerce.
Real quickly. And excuse me, because we're short on time, do we go in on the ground in any configuration? Because the nuclear is really a component, all of that uranium that we want to get to that's highly processed.
We could. I certainly hope not. In fact, I would say that the best idea there is just to leave it buried and make sure it stays buried. If they make a move towards it, just bomb it again maybe and make sure that it doesn't ever come out of the ground. I don't want to have American forces on the ground in Iran, though. I don't see an advantage there.
All right. Lieutenant Gaub, thank you. Lieutenant Colonel Gaub, thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.